Welcome to the Ogden Way podcast, where me, Ben Nadolski, Ogden City Mayor, will be welcoming guests such as Billy Schuffenhauer, who we have today, to talk about the stories of grit, resilience, grind, and unity, the kinds of stories that build people built right here in Ogden. So we're excited to get into our guest today. Billy, welcome back to Ogden.
Well, thanks. It's an honor to come back home, and we talked about this a few times, seeing where we used to be and where we are now, and the opportunities we have to give back to our communities. So it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. So just so the listeners know, I've got a long background with Billy.
Yeah.
Some people call him Bill. Well, I call him Billy because we go way back. As some might know, I was a football player at Weber State. That's what brought me to Ogden from where I grew up in Phoenix. And my wife, Janie, I met her there. She played basketball and volleyball at Weber State. And so my wife and I are both friends with Billy. We spent a lot of time around the locker room, the weight room, working out as student athletes, and ran into you quite a bit downtown in Ogden, bouncing at the bars on 25th Street, right?
Good old days. Oh, my goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever went to Brewski's without getting my ID checked by Billy. So that's the past. That's it's really fun to be full circle here with you, to see where we have landed, and we've both had a journey to get to here. And it's that journey, your journey, that I want to talk about today. So thank you for your grace in coming in to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's an honor to be invited and talk to the people about, where the roots really started and the support it took for me to get to where I was, and the ups and downs, as we talked about, and the support that it took to get through all that stuff too, and just be in this position now to be able to turn back and support and give back in any way, shape, and form we can.
That's great. So I want to get into your childhood, because I know that you grew up here in Ogden and on the streets of Ogden. And I want to foreshadow for the listeners that, just so y'all know, if you don't already know, Billy's a household name here in Utah and in Ogden for many. But if he's not, Billy is a silver medalist, an Olympic silver medalist bobsledder from the 2002 Olympics. And that is an incredible and an international accolade and accomplishment. But it's not the finish. It's not the end.
Right.
And I want to go back to the beginning and talk about Billy as a kid. Billy on the streets of Ogden in Weber County, moving around the schools, and the experience of what it was like to grow up back then. And I want to use that as an experience and an example of what our children always can be, no matter how hard your circumstances are, what you always could be. And it's an Olympic medalist, okay?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about how you grew up.
Yeah, I mean, and, a lot of times people tell me I kind of don't really give it the sauce it should have when it comes to the story. But it is what it is. I grew up with a mom that was a very well-known street drug addict mom in Salt Lake City. She bounced back and forth from Ogden to Salt Lake quite a bit. I was in and out of 17 different foster homes, bounced back and forth with my grandma when the state was going to take me away again. And, my view of life back then was nothing but drugs, alcohol, gangs, police, abuse, family members spending more time in jail and prison than they did outside, doing drugs and alcohol myself as a youth. Skipping school, getting held back from school, getting in trouble at school, getting in trouble with the law. That was my architecture, and so that's all I knew. And, it was so bad to the point I was realistically just following the footsteps of my mom and some of my other family members that, they're either still in jail, prison, or dead at this point in time. And so it was just a really unhealthy situation, and a situation when no one ever really expected me to accomplish anything or do anything. You're born into this lifestyle. Your role models that you currently have are the same thing. You're going to follow the same things, and we're probably going to see you on TV for getting in trouble, going to prison or jail, or murder, or you getting murdered yourself. And fortunately, and a lot of that happened for me both in Salt Lake and here up in Ogden. But the reality is that the saving grace was one of the times I did move to Ogden and realized that there was more to life than just the street life. And I knew that someday I was going to want to grow up and have a family of my own and want to be a role model to them and not live the lifestyle that I was so used to seeing day in and day out. And, with the help of a lot of coaches and teachers and family members, the community, right, I was able to get some clarity on what was possible and have the opportunity to truly create my future by design. And I didn't know what it was at that point in time, obviously, but I just knew I didn't want that lifestyle. And it's not fun when you're used to having cops at your house and ambulances and child and welfare services at your house and just being the black sheep of the family and the neighborhoods that you lived in. And when I had the opportunity to move back up to Ogden and eventually out to Roy and Sandridge Junior High, that's where I really noticed there was a different energy up here that I wasn't used to. And thankfully that, again, all those people that I mentioned before, teachers, coaches, and family and friends, were willing to give to me when I didn't even realize it,
right?
That they were willing to.
So you use the word energy. Let's hit on that word, because as the mayor here in Ogden, of course, I would hope and wish that no child in our city is having that kind of an upbringing. But not only would I be naive, I'd be dishonest if I said or ever thought that there aren't children out there that are struggling. There are people in our city that struggle. There are also people in our city that have immense success, and there's people at every walk of life in between.
Right.
And so I want to talk about that energy that you mentioned, because that energy is everything.
Yeah.
Like, we thrive and we are driving on energy, and whether it's negative energy or positive energy, or even if it's just a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me what you mean by energy in the environment that you experienced when you came back to Ogden.
Yeah, in Salt Lake, and it's nothing against, Salt Lake, and it's, where I live right now, but it was just constant negative energy, street life, gangs, drugs, alcohol, police, and all the different things. And that's what I was used to, just day in and day out. And when I had the opportunity to move back up here, I didn't have to deal with all that stuff. I saw kids like, you see it in my documentary. I talk about Jake Schultz, who's one of the principals at Roy High School. Now, he and I ran track together, but he was the first kid I noticed that was just different. Everyone liked him. He was clean cut. He was dressed nice. The kids were happy, and they weren't going out in recess and fighting each other and doing drugs and dealing drugs out in the schoolyard. And I was just, when I saw that and I experienced that, I literally got addicted to that. I was like, and as a seventh grader, right, I'm making adult decisions as a seventh grader, but I knew that I couldn't sustain the lifestyle that I was dealing with, because I would have ended up just like my mom or some of the other family members.
Talk about a completely different paradigm with the word addiction. Maybe
Right.
we'll get to that in a little bit. But okay, so when you're talking about energy, you're talking about an environment that you're in.
Yeah.
You're talking about the people that you're around, the place where you are, and the interactions that you're having. And that's exactly why we asked you to be here today, because when we talk about the Ogden Way, and I talk about a mission and a vision for our city, it's all about creating an environment for success.
Yeah.
And an environment that has opportunities for everybody, no matter where you are in your socioeconomic circumstances, that this city provides an opportunity for you to level up in life and to succeed. And so it's not lip service.
No.
It's very real.
Yep.
In the environment that we all participate in, not just the one that I experience, but I create an environment for those around me.
Yeah.
And that is fundamental to the Ogden Way, is you got to make sure that you invest in yourself.
Yep.
To do the work, to level up in life, and to engage with the opportunities that we're creating, and hopefully in an environment that helps to create that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But as we're doing that, we're engaging with those around us. We're lifting them, and sometimes unknowingly they're lifting us.
Yeah.
And so your experience is a really powerful example of the vision and the future that we're striving to create here in Ogden.
Yeah.
Because it's always been here.
Yeah.
It's always been
Absolutely.
our thing, right?
Yeah.
And you used addiction.
I did
It's
use addiction.
intoxicating, isn't it?
I'm really big at creating a lot of my own quotes, and I've done that, and that's a blessing that I was able to get from my high school coaches and my college coaches here at Weber State University. I just, back in the day, I thought it was funny that they're always quoting stuff, and now I'm the guy who's creating all my own quotes. And but I'm also a big fan of like taking negative words and negative situations and saying, how do we turn this into a positive? Because the opportunity's there, and we can create, our architecture by design, whether it's individual organizations, groups, or an entire city. we have that choice and we have the options and the opportunities and tools and resources to do so. And so, when I talk about addiction, I talk about it more in a sense of I got addicted to something that was really, really good for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was. I needed to have that addiction to see that in this situation, the grass was greener on the other side. And for me to achieve what I wanted to, even though I didn't know exactly what it was, outside of just getting away from the chaos, I had to get addicted to what I saw and what I noticed and what I experienced when I moved up to Ogden.
Well, and let's talk about addiction, because obviously it refers to drugs or alcohol,
Yeah.
but there's also addictions to pornography or to technology or whatever vice it is that you have that you're addicted to that's holding you back. What you just explained are fundamental principles it's more than just the book of Billy. It's also, it's built into the fundamentals of Alcoholics Anonymous, for example,
Right.
where they use faith to replace the feeling of inadequacy and addiction
Yep.
with something that feels much better. And then you become addicted to that feeling.
Yep.
And that's the feeling we want to have in our city, so that people come here and they feel well, feel good, feel surrounded and loved.
Right.
And they become addicted to that feeling and that intoxication of positivity. And that's why it's incumbent on all of us to create that environment. Or else, how could a young Billy have been dropped into Ogden from somewhere else,
Right.
and have felt something totally different?
Yeah.
It's a feeling inside you, so you have a responsibility in that. It's a feeling inside everyone that we transfer that energy, right?
Yeah.
So what did that energy and that environment help you do from that point forward?
Oh my goodness. The foundation of Billy, everything Billy is happened from Ogden. It doesn't matter if it's my education, my Olympic success, my business success, my, being a family man now and being married and having kids in the family. That energy has served me extremely well throughout my career. And as you know, and I'm extremely vulnerable and open to this stuff. It doesn't mean it was a perfect situation all the time, but I've learned along the ways. And the reason I was able to learn is because of the community of people that I knew up here that helped me realize that even though if I made a mistake, the goal is to not beat yourself down from that, but learn from that. And then how do you grow from that? And then how do you involve the people you need to involve in your architecture to help support you, and vice versa, you support them, so we can all grow together.
That's beautiful. I really appreciate that you would come back to Ogden, sit with me in this forum, in this setting, and share the power of your journey, because you and I didn't know a lot of these things in the past.
Right.
We were experiencing a lot of things in the past, but with wisdom over life, you can look back and see how powerful and impactful it was, right?
Absolutely.
So thanks for being the kind of man that comes back to give back.
Yeah.
Again, that is something that's just built into our ethos here.
Yeah.
We always give back.
Right.
Right?
And that's how we grow. I mean, not only as individuals, but as a community. When you reach out and help somebody, or your fellow brother, or your sister, or somebody you don't even know, sometimes that's all somebody needs, is that little spark of, hey, I'm here for you, brother.
Right.
I'm here for you, sister.
So I want to talk about service, and then I want to ask you about greatness.
Okay.
Because it's a conversation you and I had over lunch when we first reconnected, now that I'm the mayor and the Olympics are coming to Utah. That dynamic you just explained, I've been calling it, and I've been telling our staff at the city, I call it the servant cycle.
Yep.
Where selfless service to others is the most selfish thing you can do, because when you give to others, just as the people around you did when you were a kid, you're now in a position to give back.
Right.
But I bet in that moment you were giving them more than you realized as well.
Oh, it's really interesting, because I do a lot of coaching and consulting at a lot of levels, whether it's sports performance or Fortune 500 companies, and I've been blessed to be able to be in this position now. And every single time I work with somebody, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're helping me out so much," and I said, "You know what? I'm actually probably getting more out of this than you are.
Exactly.
But I'm glad that it's supporting you, and I'm grateful to you, and my only ask to you is, if you are getting something out of this, just pay it forward. Go help someone else."
Right. That cycle of service is the fuel that drives progress and momentum.
Right.
It's the fuel that drives me to come to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
I come here and I give my best energy every day, and the staff here give me so much in return.
You have a great staff.
We have a phenomenal city staff, and
You do.
they lift me more than they know.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll say things like, Mayor, thank you for all the energy you're bringing. I'm like, do you have any idea how much energy you're bringing to
Right.
me?
Yeah.
And when we do that, it just creates this, that intoxication again to positivity, right?
Absolutely.
And so how were you able to channel that energy and that intoxication into greatness? Was it sports when you were young, or what was it that helped you do that?
I learned at a young age, through some great coaches and mentors, which I didn't know that's really what they were also doing too, is not only helping me be a good athlete, but hopefully someday being a great person. And through some of those lessons of learning to be of service to others, and growing up in the church, and now I'm very spiritual, and realizing that by taking time to help someone else out and lift them up, it's such a rewarding feeling that I don't need anything back from it, right? And I think as human beings, our job while we're here on this earth is to be servant to one another. That's just what we were designed to do. And the more we do that, the more we just lift up the entire team of community people, companies, whatever it may be. But I learned that, and it was drilled into me, through sports, through business, through making a lot of mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And when I truly embraced being of service to others, which actually didn't even happen until probably about 2018, 2019. And once I really embraced service, which is one of my number one pillars in life, my personal life literally increased. And I don't like to use 10x, 100x, but it is definitely in that space if you look at where I was in the past to where I have had the opportunity to get to now. So,
okay. So it took you a while to realize how powerful service was.
It did.
I had the same journey. My parents raised me, and I tell people this openly. Service to others is service to God. That was just sort of a fundamental in my upbringing. But it brings us to today.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned faith and spirituality, but everyone's driven by something just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Whether it's spirituality, faith, or something else. That's not for me to judge or to push. I just want us to be driven by something bigger than ourselves, at least driven by each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so you and I talked about greatness when we had lunch, and we talked about mindset of greatness. And one of the things you said was championships aren't won, they're taken first before they're won. And I want to talk about mindset, and I want to talk about greatness, because greatness is not an endpoint, it's a journey. So let's talk mindset first.
Okay.
And then I want to talk about greatness, because your story around your greatness that you're still always striving for is an incredible story of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me what you meant when you said championships are first taken before they're earned.
It's when you have something out there that you really, really want, you don't earn it. I mean, you put in the work, right? Whether it's in the gym, on the track, on the football field, on the basketball field, your counseling, self-help, whatever it is, you're putting the work in there. But it kind of goes back to the movie says, if you build it, they will come. Right. That's you earning it is building it, but you've got to go out there and take it still. You've got to go out there and take it. And who really wants it more? Is it you, or is it the guy or the girl the next door? Right. And, I've done some amazing stuff in my life. But there's a point in time where I actually had to buckle down and realize there's other people who want what I want. And if I don't go after it and fully commit, engage, then somebody else is going to get it. Right. Mm-hmm. And obviously, making a lot of, sports analogies in football, right? You how many games have you been in where it's tied fourth quarter, there's 20 seconds on the field, and it's not the team who is going to earn winning that game. It's the team who's going to go out and take the championship, right? Who really wants it more? Who realizes when they look internally in here, knowing that they put the work in, knowing that they've been of service, they're a good human being, they're there with intention, passion, love, drive, desire, whatever it may be. And, again, if you take a football team or a basketball team and you compare that to community, the more they've come together over time, the more opportunity they're going to have to go out and take that championship and create their wins by design.
Right. So we're talking about a lot about sports, because that's what brought you and I together.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know each other if not for sports.
Right.
But it's also was a really fundamental piece of how I was raised and what really it was the vehicle or the mechanism that allowed me to build myself.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of kids and a lot of people watching this podcast or listening, that they didn't have that sports background. But for me, and I always want to make sure we reassure everybody that this isn't just about sports. It's about having something that you care deeply about, something that's really hard,
right?
Something that creates discomfort in your life, because discomfort is where growth lies, right?
Yep.
And so whether that's the arts or STEM or any kind of hobby or activity that you were after, or maybe even it's building a business,
right.
Entrepreneurship is remarkably uncomfortable, right?
Yes, it is.
And so whatever it is that's your thing, it doesn't have to be sports. We're just talking about the human spirit right now.
Yeah.
Channeled through sport for the two of us, but it's channeled through everybody differently. All in an effort to become great.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And when we were having a lunch, we talked about greatness, and we talked about taking championships before they're earned. To me, as I reflected on that, I thought it's all about mindset.
Yeah.
Greatness is a mindset. Of course, we're not always done being great, or you don't just show up and you're qualified for anything and everything, but you do have to make a decision in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to have the mindset that I am great and I am getting better every day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be great, right?
Yep.
And I reflect back on that as the mayor of the city, and I think the greatness of our city lies in our minds and in our hearts.
Yes.
As human beings, as people. And if we don't believe in our greatness, we won't be great.
Yep.
Right?
I agree 100%.
So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, and hopefully I'm following you here. In 2002 when I won the silver medal in Salt Lake, and it was such an amazing moment for me and my family, and hopefully for Ogden and the state of Utah. John Saraceno, who was the media guy for ESPN, he comes up, and he and I had been talking quite a bit through the Olympic process, and he's like, "Who do you want to be more proud of you? Like, who are all the people?" And I said, "You know what, John, that's a great question." I said, "But at the end of the day, the only person I want to be most proud of me is me." I said, "Because at the end of the day, I had to be accountable. I had to believe in myself, and I had to get up every day, and I had to train, and I had to do the things the right way. And in turn, I was able to bring home an Olympic medal for my community, right? And I hope that, all of Utah and Ogden feels like they were a part of that, because they were, right? It wasn't just me. It was everybody from the time this idea of making Olympics started, this kid straight off the streets. There were so many people that supported me in one way or another, indirectly and directly. And that was just, it was beautiful. And there's absolutely no way I could have done it without my community around me. I'm
smiling and then also getting kind of goosebumps underneath my suit, because you're bringing me back to when I was watching you do all this. I had, I was right here in Ogden.
Yeah.
My now wife, Janie, and I, then dating and getting engaged, and to watch someone that we knew, that we grew with for a period of our lives, doing what you were doing was really inspirational. And it was everything. We were a part of the community that you were part of.
Yeah.
And to see someone from our circles do what you were doing certainly gave us hope. But I can't even imagine the amount of hope you were given to kids in this city and in these streets, not just in Ogden, around the world.
Yeah.
Because your story was being told at that time too.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it was funny, it's kind of the ongoing joke is when, during the Olympics, when they were announcing my teammates, right, in front of billions of people around the world, you've got my driver, Todd Hayes, and he's an MMA champion and did this and did that. And my two other teammates, track and field and football champions. And they says, then you got this kid, Bill Schuffenhauer, shows up straight off the streets. And I was like, what? Like,
yeah.
And originally, at first, I was a little frustrated with that, because it was on international television in front of billions of people. But the reality, it did tell a story that needed to be told. And hopefully give hope to those who maybe didn't have some hope, or just inspired some people that just need a little bit of inspiration, that this kid that came off the streets with nothing was able to change as stars and achieve everything at the highest level, and then turn around and do even more and more with that, and continue to until I can't. So
That's awesome. So, okay, so I'm going to cover two more things before we're out of time. I want to talk about your journey, because you've had ups and downs like that.
Yeah.
That must have felt like an absolute peak.
Oh my goodness!
Like you just peaked a mountain.
It's still
life
surreal.
Couldn't have gotten higher, right?
Yeah.
And then you've had ups and downs, but I want to finish our interview and our time together today talking about what does this mean for Ogden moving forward.
Right.
Okay. So, but before we get to that point, like, tell me about the feeling you had on that peak, and the experiences you've had since then, and how those ups and downs continue to drive you.
Yeah, to start off on a high note, when I did win my Olympic medal and I was rewarded it in Salt Lake City, it's getting me emotional, because I'm just visually seeing everybody out there in the crowd, the thousands and thousands of people that I knew were my family and friends from Ogden, and just recalling the conversations that so many of us had, like, oh, you can do it, and someday you'll make the Olympics, and to finally have that story actually come to fruition, and see my entire community out there cheering us on was just phenomenal. And of course, then I did 3 more Olympics, and that was great. But after I did retire in 2010, and this is very, very public as well, and I'm very open, because I want other people to, understand that there's some of these things do happen right after retirement from sports. And one of the reasons I actually created one of my companies was also because of this situation, that I had a massive loss of identity when I retired. I was so used to training and with coaches and with teammates with all very like-minded and aligned, and traveling the world and competing for medals. And when all that stopped, I was lost. And it took me down a very, very negative path that a lot of people here in Ogden around the world know about. Became an alcoholic, victim mentality, partying, doing a bunch of stuff. I mean, I literally went back to ground zero from where I started. And it was interesting enough. I've got some friends like you, and some judges that I know, and some attorneys here that I know. They're very great friends of mine, and they called me out on my stuff and just said, hey, if you don't change your ways, like, we're going to unfortunately have to be the ones responsible for doing some things that we don't want to do. And that was a wake-up call. And, because I was in pretty good trouble.
You were, yeah.
And I had to have a come to who conversation with myself in the mirror in my house right up the street, and saying, what are you doing? Right. Everyone else is telling you that you're making all these mistakes, but you're not seeing it because you're in such a victim mentality. And that's where I started reaching out for help. And that included going to AA. That included finding mentors. That included, asking people to, tell me if I was doing things wrong and call me out on my BS. And that included getting stronger in my faith and my spirituality. And, it took a little time, but once I realized, like, the mistakes I was making, and I took accountability for the life that I had created, I was able to really move some mountains and hopefully just continue to do so. So now
there are countless lessons within the response you just gave that trace right back to why we're here.
Yeah.
We're here for Ogden. We're here to discuss the Ogden Way.
Yeah. And
you talked about accountability. You talked about, making the decision for yourself. You talked about judges and people in the community, and I know exactly who you're talking about, because I've talked with that judge.
Yep.
And but I want to make the point that judge is an employee of our city.
Yes.
And so it reinforces the point that when we talk about community, we're not just talking about people that live in the city. We're also talking about the people that serve this city and work in this city and for this city specifically.
Yeah.
Because the Ogden Way is more than a vision for the 90,000 residents that live here. It's also a mission for our 700 employees, including the judge that helped you.
Yep.
And so that's the culture that we are trying to reflect and create here as the mayor, that we are a service and a facilitator to help facilitate the success of our people, of others.
Yeah.
And we do that by helping to create an environment that creates opportunity for success for people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so with your ups and downs in life, especially you were just talking about being in the down.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the up from there.
The up was beautiful. I mean, you said it, that, through support of the community I had around here, and that included, a real estate agent that, we talked about earlier, and many, many others, that they didn't have to be there to support me. They didn't have to be there to help me out, but they were willing to. And again, just like that child who moved up here as a seventh grader, there were people that saw something in me that I didn't even see yet. And I think the same thing happened, and they just, came together and had a lot of patience.
It's required.
Was willing to get in the trenches with me and really help me realize that I did have to take accountability for the life that I had created, and that my work wasn't done. In reality, right? It wasn't make the Olympics and then you're done. That was just kind of the starting point. Is now what do you do with your life after the Olympics, right? And it's getting to a place where, I can be a better human being. I can be a better friend, father, brother, whatever, next door neighbor, and start to really create what I want to create, which is a legacy of my life that did take place here in Ogden.
Well,
right?
I think we can help with that legacy.
Yeah.
As I hear what you're reflecting to us and to me, I relate that you had a sense of purpose when you achieved that medal.
Oh,
you knew exactly what you needed to do every morning when you woke up, and you knew what your goal was and your drive, and you had that focus. And then you achieved it.
Yeah.
And then after you retired, what was that purpose? And you had to find it again, and here you are.
I did.
And so I want that same sense for all of our staff here.
Yeah.
And all of the people that live here, is to have that sense of purpose in your life, because that again gets back to the beginning of our discussion. That creates the energy that creates community.
Yeah.
And so I want to announce to Ogden something that you and I talked about.
Okay.
And the reason I reached out to you in the first place is I ran into Billy at an Olympic event.
Yeah.
We were welcoming the international president of the Olympics to Utah, and there was a whole buzz around all of it. And we had elected officials and community leaders, business leaders, and Olympic athletes. And we're sitting at the Grand America, and that's when they said, and Bill Schuffenhauer. I'm like, Bill Schuffenhauer? I'm like, who's this Bill fella?
Right.
It's like, is that Billy's dad?
Right.
And then Billy goes walking up, you kind of gave me like a fist bump when you were growing up, and I'm like, we got to talk.
Yeah.
And what we talked about that I want Ogden to know about is that Billy's a man of his word. He's a man that's committed to people, committed to his journey. He's also committed to honesty and authenticity, and he shares all of it willingly. And for that, I appreciate. But he wants to give back. Yeah. And we are a city that's going to host the Olympics in 2034.
It just gave me the chills.
Right? But we don't want to build everything for the Olympics. We want the Olympics to build everything for us, including building us as people. And so it's important to me, and you know my background in the importance of youth recreation and sports, to help build our youth and build our city and our community through our people. But I want to build a legacy of sport around the Olympics. And that doesn't mean it has to be Winter Olympics. It can be winter, it could be summer, it could be any kind of a sport, because it's something that drives the human spirit, right? And so with Billy being a kid from Ogden, a kid that grew up in the streets of Ogden under the most difficult circumstances that our streets could possibly offer, I want to start an initiative, and I want to have in the coming year, I want us to start talking about, we as an Olympic community are a city that have an Olympian in our midst.
Yeah.
A future Olympian lives in this city somewhere.
Many.
That small, young child, boy or girl, going to one of our schools, growing up in our neighborhoods, walking our streets, they're out there.
Yes.
And if we set the goal that one day we are going to find and raise, we are going to raise as a community and as a city, as employees and as residents, an Olympic athlete in the future from Ogden, Imagine if we create an environment and programs and opportunities for all of Ogden's kids to participate in those things.
Mm-hmm.
And we nurture it to the point that we lift all of them. And at some point, we're going to lift one child into becoming an Olympic athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Think of all the kids we will have lifted in the meantime.
Absolutely.
And this is not a made up make believe thing.
No.
It's real. I'm sitting with it right now.
And it's been proven.
It's been proven by you.
Yeah.
Billy Schuffenhauer, thank you for being the guest on the Ogden Way podcast.
Absolutely.
Thanks for telling a tiny bit of your story. But most importantly, thanks for telling the story of Ogden, the story of our future and our past, right? And thanks most importantly for giving back. It's been an absolute honor to reconnect with you as mayor, but more importantly as a friend. And I really appreciate that you've committed to being a spokesperson for this vision and this energy that we're trying to create here in Ogden. So as we part today, I just want to encourage our viewers and listeners, go out, look up Billy, like, subscribe, share, visit everything that he does. He's got books, podcasts. He's a guest speaker. He's a business owner, multi-time author, right?
Coach, consultant,
everything. Get to know Billy more because you're going to see a lot more of him, but also get to know the Ogden Way more.
Yeah.
Visit the links on your screen and in the credits of this episode, and learn more about the Ogden Way. Learn more about what you can do. Find your call to action on how you can live consistent in the principles and in the vision of the Ogden Way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would like to say, thanks to the Ogden community, because without the community here in Ogden, again, I would not be sitting here in this chair with Ben, the mayor of Ogden, a friend of mine from college, and an amazing staff. And so I'm honored and I'm blessed to be here right now. And thank you to all of you. So thanks.
Thanks for coming back, brother.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Okay, until next time, we'll part ways in the Ogden Way, and we'll be back again with another example and another story of how Ogden is great and how Ogden continues to become great through its people and by its people. God bless you all.